Hello student, myself Deepika Prajapati from Computer Department and welcome to all of you in our today's video lecture series. So today we are going to discuss about different type of model of the software development. So dear all students, in a previous video lecture series we have already seen about what is software development and how it develop. And now in this lecture we are going to discuss about different types of model of the software development process. So what is the software development process and how it can be used? Different types of model like a waterfall model, spiral model, prototype model, starting model, and so and so. So here today we are going to discuss about different type of model for the software development process. So let's start the software development models. So here one is a different software lifecycle model is first of all classical waterfall model, second one is iterative waterfall model, then incremental model, then Rad model, then next spiral model and prototype model. And this all model is very most MP for the GTU university exam, and this all model again and again asked in our university exam having 3 marks either 4 marks. So dear all students, this all model is a very most MP model for our exam. So here the different software lifecycle model is first of all classical waterfall model, second one is iterative waterfall model, incremental model, Rad model, spiral model and prototype model. And this all model is connected with our software development model. So let's start the learn about classical waterfall model. So here one is first of all waterfall model. What is waterfall model? So waterfall model was proposed by Ruiz in 1970. So waterfall model was proposed by Ruiz in 1970 and it is also called as a traditional waterfall model or conventional waterfall model. So waterfall model we can also say a traditional waterfall model as well as conventional waterfall model as well as simply waterfall model. So waterfall model is also called as a traditional waterfall model and conventional waterfall model. So this model break down the life cycle into set of phases like first of all feasibility study, second one is requirement analysis and specification, third one is design, fourth one is coding and unit testing, then integration and system testing, and then maintenance. So what is the phase about our waterfall model? So here one is the different phase about waterfall model is first of all feasibility study, then requirement analysis and specification, then it's designing about software, then coding and unit testing, then integration and system testing, and then maintenance. So these are the phases about our waterfall model. Next, during each phase of life cycle, a set of well-defined activities are carried out and each phase requires different amount of efforts. So the phases between feasibility study and testing is nothing but known as a development phases. So here one is the feasibility study and testing of this waterfall model phases is known as development phases, and among all life cycle phases, maintenance phase consume a maximum efforts. So whenever any software develop, we have to following this type of phases for the developing software. First of all, you have to check the feasibility study about the software, then requirement and specification about the software, then the designing, it means the plan of software, then testing of this software, deployment of the software, and then you have to maintain this software. So these all phases regarding our waterfall model software model. So here one is The phases between feasibility study and testing is also known as our development phases. During each phase of life cycle, a set of well-defined activities are carried out, and then each phase requires different amount of efforts. But here the maximum effort regarding maintenance phases. Why? Because whenever any software is ready and we have to publish this for the publicly, then the maintenance will be occur for the maximum effort. So here the all life cycle phases, maximum phase consume as a maximum effort. So next, this is the figure about classical waterfall model. This is figure about classical, not iterative. Here one is classical waterfall model for our software development. So dear all students, keep in your mind this figure is only classical waterfall model, not a iterative waterfall model. In the next, we are going to discuss about iterative waterfall model, then spiral model. So this all model having different figure. So you have to remember this all model with figure in a proper way. So here one is classical waterfall model figure. So you have to remember this figure for the classical waterfall model. So here one is classical waterfall model. So first of all, contain a phase as a feasibility study about software. Then next, requirement analysis and specification of the software. Then designing of the software, and designing is nothing but contain as a plan for the software. Then next, coding and unit testing of the software. Whenever the software is ready, then apply for the test. Our software is correctly started or not. So this portion occur as coding and testing. Then integration and system testing, and then maintenance of the software. So first of all, phase about our classical waterfall model is once again feasibility study, then requirement analysis and specification, then design, then coding and unit testing, then integration and system testing, and then maintenance. Next, what is feasibility study occur? So aim of this phase is to determine whether the system would be financially and technically feasible to develop the product. So it's check for the software. Feasibility study is that nothing but aim of this phase is to determine whether the system would be financially and technically feasible to develop the product. Second phase, requirement analysis and specification. So aim of this phase is to understand the exact requirement of the customer and to document them properly or not. So what is the requirement analysis and specification? It depends on the customer. So aim of this phase is to understand the exact requirement of the customer and to document them properly. Then the design. So the design goal phase is to transform the requirements specified in SRS document into system requirement software. So system requirement software document into a structure that is suitable for implementation in some programming language. So the goal for designing phase in a classical waterfall model is to transform the requirements specified in SRS document into a structure and that is suitable for implementation in some programming language. Next, coding and unit testing. So it is also called as the implementation phase, and aim of this phase is to translate the software design into source code, and unit testing is done module wise. Then next, integration and system testing. So what is the integration and system testing? So once all the modules are coded and tested individually, integration of different module is undertaken. So goal of this phase is to ensure that the developed system work well to its requirements described in the SRS document. So this one is our portion about integration and system testing. Next, maintenance, and this is a very most MP for our classical waterfall model phase. So the maintenance phase, it requires maximum effort to develop software product. Then this phase is needed to keep system operational, and the general maintenance is needed due to the change in the environment or the requirement of system. So these all phases with its description for the classical waterfall model, and this model is very most IMP model for the GTU exam. Okay. Next, let's start iterative, as well as we can also say as an incremental model. So second model is our iterative model as well as incremental waterfall model. So the classical waterfall model is a idealistic, but here this is our iterative, and incremental waterfall is nothing but incremented waterfall model. So in a classical waterfall model is assuming that no defect is introduced by during any development activity, but in the practice defect do get introduced in almost every phase of life cycle. So even defect may get at much later of the life cycle. So the solution of this problem contained as an iterative waterfall model. So here one is disadvantage for this is classical waterfall model, and this disadvantage give the solution to use of iterative incremental waterfall model. So the classical waterfall model is assume that no defect is introduced during any development activity, but whenever practically performance the defect do get introduced it almost every phase of life cycle. So even defect may get at much later of life cycle. So the solution of this problem given with iterative incremental waterfall model. So here one incremental model as well as iterative model is also referred as a successive version of waterfall model using incremental approach, and in this model the system is broken down into several modules which can be incrementally implemented and delivered. So the first develop the core product of system. The core product is used by customer to evaluate the system, and the initial product skeleton is refined into increasing level of capacity as well as capability, and by adding new functionality in a successive version. So here one is the figure about incremental model as well as iterative model. So the different types of phases for our incremental model is, here one is requirement for the customer. So build 1, build 2, build 3. So first of all design and development software, then testing, and then implement. Here one same one like for the build 2, design and development, testing and implement. So and so many user as well as customer for the given incremental phases as using this model. So this is depends on customer requirements. So first of all given as a requirement, derive in build 1, build 2 and so build n, and this phase is containing as in incremental model. So first of all design and development, then testing, and then implementation. Next, incremental model is a successive version performing more useful work than previous version. So the core module get tested truly, thereby reducing chance of error in final product. So the model is more flexible and less costly to change the scope and requirement, and user gets chance to experiment with a partially developed software, and feedback provided in get each increment is useful to determining the better final product. So this is give the advantage from our classical waterfall model. So incremental model is a successive version performing for a more useful work than a previous version, and the core module get tested truly, thereby the reducing chance of error in our final stage of product launching. And then the model is very more flexible and less costly to change the scope and requirement given by any customer as well as user, and user gets chance to experiment with a practically as well as a partially developed software and then give the feedback provided get by the each increment useful for the determining better final product. Next, RAD model. So what is RAD model? So RAD is also stands for RAPID. So RAPID application development model is proposed by IBM in 1980. So RAPID, it's also say as a rapid application development model, is an incremental software development process model that emphasizes an extremely short development cycle, and it emphasizes on reuse. So its requirements are well understood and project scope is concentrated, and RAD process enable a development team to create a fully functional system within a short time periods. So in this model, user involvement is essentially from requirement analysis to delivery. So what is the figure concept for the RAD model? So here one is given a module. So this is our module. This one is our data modeling, then process, then application generation, testing, and last one is turnover. So this is the phases about our RAD model. So first is nothing but depends on our module task. So module task containing as a business modeling, then it contain data, then process start on the data, then occur application generation, and then whenever software application is launched, the software for the testing, and last one is the turnover. Okay. In a next video lecture, we have discussed will be soon spiral model, then this is the figure understand prototype model, and this is a prototype model. So in a next video lecture series, dear all student, discuss in a next video lecture spiral model. So here one is spiral model, this one is our figure for the spiral model, this is our explanation here of the prototype model, and this is prototype model figure. So I hope dear all students you all easily understand about first is a waterfall model as a classical, second one is a iterative model, and we can also say about iterative model as a incremental model and as well as a successive model, then third one is RAD model. And next video lecture series we are discuss spiral model and prototype model. Okay, so I hope dear all student you all easily understand about this. And one thing for you all, you have to write only and only practically PDF in your file pages. Here no any assignment write down in your file pages. Here only you have to write only practical for all subject. So dear all student, whenever any faculty give the assignment for your write down, then and then you have to write assignment. Otherwise no write down for the any subject assignment. You have to only write practical in your file pages, then make a PDF and upload on Google Classroom. Okay. So I hope dear all students you all easily understand about this all model concept from this PPT video lecture series. Okay, thank you. Once again revise this all model is, dear all students, this all model is very most IMP model for our G2 exam, so kindly study with be concentrate. Okay, so here one is first our waterfall model. So first waterfall model as a classical waterfall model, second one is iterative waterfall model, then third one is incremental model, then RAD model, spiral model, and prototype model. So first we have discussed already waterfall model as a classical, then second is iterative as well as incremental waterfall model, then third one is RAD model. Okay, in our next video lecture, spiral model and prototype model will be discussed as soon as possible in our next video lecture series. Okay, thank you.